Good morning, everybody, and you're all very welcome, and it's lovely to see you here, and we'll gradually all get organised, and it's lovely to see all the lovely, happy, breastfed babies. Yeah. So, we're going to have a lot of number of speakers. There's a lot of people who would like to speak, but we have to limit it to a certain number. So the kind of people that have been a long time in the field promoting the breastfeeding and that, we're going to ask them to speak. So I'll just say a few words first. And now, they'll be speaking there on the front line or at the breast of the promoting the breastfeeding. But it's really, we haven't improved in Ireland. We're behind still in the numbers that are breastfeeding. So that's our task, really, to bring up the numbers, you know, that in the UK it's 81%, and in the Scandinavian countries it's over 90%. So our aim is that we get up there into the 90s. So we've a long way to go. I think we're at about 56, or maybe there'll be more information on how we're improving, because there's been a lot more efforts being made by all these organisations and the people you'll hear speaking in the last number of years. And it's just wonderful, as to say, that there's nursing and midwifery now. So it means that where there was seemed to be an absence of knowledge in the medical professions on helping women and letting them know about breastfeeding, or themselves learning about breastfeeding and knowing it, so that they're able to be of assistance to people. So I'm delighted that the midwife, the nursing is now the midwifery as well. And it's been a fantastic help, as we know, that in the public sector, people get the 6 months. The United Nations World Health Organization, who has done all the research on this, have, in all their research, made it clear that a minimum of 6 months complete breastfeeding will give the very best start to the baby and will pass on the mother immunities, and also build preventative things into the baby, so it will avoid future illnesses and even help that it will not become obese in its later childhood. And then that will go on to solids after that, so that there's no need for going on to formula. To breastfeed completely without any liquids or anything for the first 6 months, and then go on to gradually onto the solids, and then people choose. I see in the list here, some people are feeding for 4 months, 8 months, 12 months, 22 months is the highest one I saw. So really, it's a choice then for people after that. And the task is to get it that every woman can, that they have the information. And as I say, it's really important. It's so good that the public sector and all those, they have built in now into their place that women will have 6 months and can even take extra months, because when it's realised that for the world even it's important. So what has to happen is that the private sector also make the conditions of work so that women are able to breastfeed exclusively for the 6 months. So that is really going to have to be worked on and promoted and campaigned for. And the task then, as we know, is educating women to know that this is the very best thing that they can do for their children. And to get that information out there is the big task. And it really takes to just have to get it. I don't know how we do it, but it should be getting out there to every woman to know that this is the best. And then they need to be prepared for it through the services so they know what to expect, that they know to prepare the breasts in advance. People think, oh, I can't, but they need to prepare the breasts in advance so that the nipples are toughened enough, because many people it's too tender and they give up. In my time in the 70s, you used methylated spirits to toughen them for a number of weeks before. It was very nice. I love the smell of methylated spirits. And then we moved on to having, proprietary lanolins from the chemists. But it's really essential that the breasts are prepared so that a woman is not hurt and that can put them off. And another thing that really I think is important, that sometimes you hear people, I saw it in a paper, of their women having to be in hospital with what they call mastitis, lactation mastitis. Well, if they are prepared in time, they'll know that if they get a blocked duct, that is just an obstruction to the flow of the milk, and that by massaging the breast and the duct along, it will clear. I always found, if I got from Mchugh, to start right back under the arm and stroke and finger up, it'll clear. Or sometimes people just go in a hot bath and massage there. But if you're stroking along and the baby is sucking, most cases. But again, that information wasn't available to people, and they would get frightened and feel they were ill or something, when in fact it's treatable by oneself, unless there may be severe cases or something, but the general course of events. So I think as well, a big thing that's been missing was in my time, and it may be still, is the medical profession, the doctors and the obstetricians, to know themselves about breastfeeding and be informed and be able to help women and talk to women. Everyone is going to see a doctor or an obstetrician before they have a baby, and it's really up to those people to talk to women and tell them the importance of breastfeeding. It never happened in my time that any of them ever mentioned, and I think they didn't even want to say the word breast, Honestly, I think that was, so I think it's really important that they do their part in informing people and helping them and directing them to midwives or to where classes, prenatal classes, that deal with breastfeeding. Because the prenatal classes in my time didn't deal with the breastfeeding aspect of it. And there's a woman speaking to us from a wonderful film where thousands of women came to it on Tiger. It was about the, how the unethical advertising of milk formula and all of that. And this great man was there for a question time afterward, and he's Dr. Donal O'Shea, and he's the Health Service Executive Lead on Obesity. And his idea is that all medical people should be able to help people. And he couldn't come today, but he sent a little note because I thought we were very impressed with them. And he said a key part of a healthier future for Ireland is getting awareness of the importance of breastfeeding built into our well-being curriculum in secondary schools and into our undergraduate healthcare professional courses at third level. We need the same positive messaging around breastfeeding to be given at all stages of education. Its importance goes way beyond just having a healthier weight. The long-term psychological benefits and general immune system benefits are major positives for general health and well-being. So I think we just, the great work that's been done by all of you in the different organisations, we've just got to get out to every woman in the country, and we've got to, you're the pioneers, as I said. You're the ones that know. You're the ones. So take your courage and get everyone that's done that to join in Cuidiú or join the others, Friends of Breastfeeding, and get permission to go into schools and lobby for it being part of the education in schools. So that's my bit on this. Yeah. So now we'll have our great speakers coming along. So I think the first person, well, let's see who it's here. Well, the oldest that we came across in 70s, when nobody knew about it, was Leche League. So I think we'll ask the Leche League person maybe to speak first. Siobhan Ward. That we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7. We have a lot of speakers, but so welcome and thank you.
Many thanks to Sabine for the opportunity to attend this very special event to acknowledge and promote breastfeeding, and for the chance to say a few words on behalf of the Leche League of Ireland. It is so lovely to see all our mums here today with the beautiful babies, and of course to everybody else here who is representing the breastfeeding community in Ireland. This year, the Leche League's theme for National Breastfeeding Week is empowering parents, enabling breastfeeding. A new mother needs support. When fathers, partners, families, workplace and communities support her, breastfeeding improves. It is normal for new mums to have lots of questions and concerns, especially regarding breastfeeding. By offering new parents accurate breastfeeding information and encouraging the belief that they are the experts in their own babies, it empowers them to trust their own instinct, to listen to their bodies and their babies. And we all know that babies are born to breastfeed. My one wish, until such time as breastfeeding becomes part of our education system, is that pregnant women get encouragement and the opportunity to attend a breastfeeding support group while they're pregnant. They would hear about the reality of life with a new baby, hear how breastfeeding can often go smoothly, sometimes be challenging, and sometimes require lots of support, but always be worth it. In our society, while breastfeeding is not the norm, it is really important for pregnant women to see how often a baby needs to feed, to see those little cues that show when they need a feed, and that by responding to their baby in those early days, it will make mothering become so much easier. They will see mothering through breastfeeding in action. There is nothing you can do for your child that will affect them both emotionally and physically as profoundly as breastfeeding. There are so many studies now showing the effects that go well beyond the composition of breast milk. At the Leche League, we offer support to pregnant and breastfeeding mothers through regular monthly meetings, coffee mornings, toddler meetings, and through home visits. Meetings are informal discussions covering practical, physical, and psychological aspects of breastfeeding. Leaders are trained and accredited and available to answer questions by phone, by email, by social media also. Each year we hold our annual conference, which is something to offer the whole family and is also suitable for health professionals. Our next conference is in March 2020 in Wexford. We also offer specific health professional seminars. The Leche League groups around the country are celebrating National Breastfeeding Week by hosting events. All of these can be found on local Facebook pages and Leche League of Ireland Facebook group page. When people feel supported, it makes them more confident. Sometimes this support can be as simple as giving a mum a chance to have a good cry, by somebody saying to her, listen, you're doing a great job, or by somebody just handing her a cuppa and a bit of home baking. UNICEF state that breastfeeding isn't a one-woman job, so all of us here have a very special role in protecting, supporting breastfeeding and encouraging new mothers to embark on their breastfeeding journey, and then hopefully making that journey as pleasant as possible for her. Thank you.
You know, everybody is free to be breastfeeding their baby here. That's, I mean, every other year people adjust. So if you're wanting the baby to stop crying or anything, or just feed away, that's what you're here for. It's a latching on. So latch on whenever you feel like it, and you're welcome to it. And we'll probably be able to hear the speakers better as well. Yeah. So I think the next speaker would be the next big group starting was the Cuidiú. So that's Nicola Reeves. She's the national president of the Cuidiú.
Thank you, Mrs. Higgins, for inviting Cuidiú to this uplifting event and for the warm welcome extended to all of us today. We're very grateful for you to provide this opportunity for us to come together and celebrate the value and importance of breastfeeding. And I'm delighted to be accompanied today by breastfeeding members of Cuidiú from all over the country. Cuidiú is a parent-to-parent support organisation, and membership is for everyone in the family. In practice, though, most of the support is woman-to-woman support, which I think we can all agree is invaluable. Our trained breastfeeding counsellors give a huge amount of their time and energy to help mothers breastfeed. We know that there can sometimes be a significant gap between the promotion of breastfeeding in pregnancy and practical, effective support once the baby is born, and our organisation helps to bridge that gap. Cuidiú breastfeeding counsellors are there for every parent's journey, whether for one feed or full-term breastfeeding. We would like to thank the HSE for helping us to fund the training of our breastfeeding counsellors. In the last 5 years, we have trained nearly 200 mothers to become peer supporters in their communities, with about another 100 in the pipeline, so very exciting. 2 out of every 3 of our courses are delivered outside Dublin, with a special emphasis on areas with little or no support. And we are especially proud of our team of pioneer counsellors in Donegal. But Cuidiú is not all about breastfeeding. Our antenatal teachers educate and support parents to make informed decisions regarding their maternity care, as well as helping them prepare for labour and birth and the early weeks with a baby. Our trained parent-to-parent supporters are there to help parents, again mostly mothers, who are struggling or who might be experiencing postnatal mood disorders. They listen, validate and provide peer support. In addition, we have our all-important volunteers in each of our branches running activities like toddler groups, fundraising and keeping the show on the road. It is wonderful to see all these lovely babies and toddlers who are the absolute picture of health. National Breastfeeding Week's message of every breastfeed makes a difference is evident here today, and we in Cuidiú are very proud to be part of this celebration. Thank you.
I think the next speaker would be Jennifer Phillips. She's the chair of Friends of Breastfeeding. Yes.
We are honoured to be back in the Áras again and proud to say we are celebrating Friends of Breastfeeding's 10th anniversary. The organisation began with mothers who connected after turning to an online parenting forum when their needs for information, understanding and support were not being met. Through growth, we've helped fill gaps in locations that need support. Our mum-to-mum groups can quickly get going in areas that mums need to connect with other breastfeeding mothers, learn how to access supports and be empowered. We now have almost 30 groups across the country, and our breastfeeding buddy system extends the journeys of many nursing mothers by giving a pregnant mum or a new mum a relationship that can often be missing when breastfeeding is not part of your culture. We strive to foster a positive breastfeeding culture through awareness-raising events such as our WHO Code compliant All About Baby Fair, public normalisation events like the Quintessent Breastfeeding Challenge, our online efforts and the Friends of Breastfeeding Awards, which were envisaged as a way to celebrate those that empower others through support, normalisation and inspiration. During this decade, the country has seen an improvement in breastfeeding rates. So much good is happening through the hard work and passion of many groups, professionals and individuals here today. who, like Friends of Breastfeeding, strive to support mothers in any area they can make a difference. However, looking forward, as we all know, issues still remain. Friends of Breastfeeding will continue to grow, advocate, and ask ourselves, how can we push to make a difference? What else could we all achieve as a community together in the next 10 years? Nothing can change if nothing new changes. So how can we drive for greater shifts together? Let's connect more with one another and bring the changes about that we all want to see. I'd like to take this opportunity cultivated by Sabina through this event to say, after speeches today, let's all connect with meaningful intent for action. Connect with us today if there are new ways our organisation could lend support to your work. If our groups could also offer support and friendship to mums that you meet. If you could make a greater change by connecting with our projects that we envisage will help make a cultural shift. If you believe that we can make change happen by being a stronger force together. If you can support our efforts for greater funding. Because nothing significant can change if change isn't driven and supported. If you want change, help change happen. Thank you. We would just like to present Sabina from Friends of Breastfeeding, a Friends of Breastfeeding pin, as a sign of appreciation for her ongoing support for the organisation and all breastfeeding mums.
Now, our next speaker will be, I can't pronounce it really right, because it's Cuidiú Lynch Ryback-Zook. She's the chair of the Association for the Improvement of the Maternity Services in Ireland. And so I'd ask her to come. And listen, people to feel free, if their baby is crying, feel free to walk all over the Áras wherever you want, or to go into another room. Do you know what I mean? Or make yourself, if there's something you want to do to make yourself comfortable or anything, there's plenty of room to walk around, or feel free to walk up and down, or whatever helps you, or to go into other, you know. But be comfortable and keep your baby happy. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. So the Association for Improvements in the Maternity Services, we're delighted to be asked here again, Sabina, and thank you so much for your thoughtful and kind invitation. We are the largest maternity support service group in Ireland, and our primary focus is on ensuring that women and mothers and their families come out of our maternity services whole and come out of our maternity services empowered in their mothering. So that is the primary thing that we concern ourselves with. So obviously that means that a mother needs to receive the best possible care in her maternity experience and the best possible care in terms of breastfeeding her baby afterwards. Research now shows us that how a pregnant person gives birth will have a huge impact on how, or whether in fact, she actually ends up breastfeeding. And a lot of mothers don't realize this, nobody has told them, and a lot of care professionals never make reference to this. What we tend to do is we focus on antenatal care, we focus on whether a mother has attended a breastfeeding support group, we focus on whether the baby might have tongue tie, and many, many other issues. But one of the things that really gets forgotten is the continuum of birth and breastfeeding. How, where, and with whom, and how a woman is supported during her birth will have an impact on whether or not and how easy breastfeeding is for her. So, for example, when an anaesthetist offers a mother an epidural, there's usually a laminated list that has all the pros and cons associated with that type of anaesthetic, and a mother usually has to agree to that before she accepts it. But on that list, a sleepy baby slow to feed does not feature. Neither does delayed lactation. Neither does shorter duration of feeds. Less milk, less queuing, less suckling, especially in that first golden hour. These things are not mentioned. So how can mothers make an informed choice about taking up medical options if they don't know that it might actually affect their initial breastfeeding experience with their baby? About 7 out of 10 first-time mothers in Ireland will take an epidural and will not have been given that information. When mothers are offered syntocinon to speed up a labour or to induce a labour, are they told that it might inhibit natural oxytocin, so vital for bonding with their baby in that first hour? No, they're not. And yet 6 out of 10 first-time mothers in Ireland will probably avail of this drug. All sorts of other things during a birth: assisted delivery, caesarean births, routine suctioning of baby, popping a baby on a towel instead of on skin to skin. These all have their effects as well. And mothers really need to be informed of those things. We know that 45% of first-time mothers will have a caesarean in Ireland. Mothers need to be prepared that if they have a medical intervention, it might affect breastfeeding. And once you're prepared, once you have the information, as Sabina said in her talk, then you're ready to face breastfeeding, knowing exactly what you're facing into. So how do we sort this out? Well, we need less interventionist births for low-risk women. Where interventions are absolutely necessary, then they need to carry a health warning for breastfeeding. Mothers and women need to know what the potential risks to breastfeeding are of each intervention. And then we need much more breastfeeding support, given the fact that most women will face medicalised birth in Ireland. We need more lactation consultants and more postnatal support. The care that a woman receives in the postpartum will fortify her as a new mother. For mothers who want to breastfeeding, the care that's most remembered is the consistent presence of one person who really believes that she can do it. And so often that is missing from our postnatal care, and that's what we really need to fight to be there. We should never ever forget that the majority of mothers who don't breastfeed in Ireland really desperately wanted to. We've got a new maternity service experience survey coming up, and that's going to tell us a lot about mothers and babies and what they went through, and it's really important that we learn from that. Breastfeeding is a gift that benefits not just babies, but mothers too. Not just for a day, not just for a week, and not just for a month. It benefits the mother, baby, and family and society dyad for the rest of their lives. It's vitally important. In today's modern world, breastfeeding connects us with our ancestors, and it enables us to produce a healthy, modern society. It leaves no carbon footprint, and it contributes to our sustainable future. Breastfeeding connects all mothers, irrespective of race, of creed, of colour, of wealth, and of societal class. It enables us to together face our common humanity. So I would say that all mothers birthing in Ireland deserve the gift of being able to breastfeed. And it's really up to us, all of us that are here, with the support of everyone we know, to enable that can happen. Thank you.
The next will follow on closely, I think, that it's Laura Mchugh. She's the National Breastfeeding Coordinator from the HSE. So we welcome her, and they work with you.
Hi, good morning everyone. Thank you Sabina again for her kind invitation, and what a nice way to connect during National Breastfeeding Week. It is a week where we acknowledge and celebrate all the mothers in Ireland, and the families and the partners and our public health nurses and our Leche leaguers and Cuidiú volunteers and Friend of Breastfeeding volunteers and all the people, I suppose, that support breastfeeding in Ireland. I suppose there are more mums breastfeeding now than ever, and that is important, I suppose, for us all to reflect on. We've 10% more mums in breastfeeding now than we had 10 years ago, but unfortunately we know that drop-off is quite significant. So we have maybe high 70s of breastfeeding rates in some parts of Ireland, and then we have rates of 40% leaving hospital. So there's a huge gap in that, and we're all very aware, I suppose, of the challenges that brings. But we are making progress, and I suppose our rates even this year in terms of public health nursing figures are backing that up as well. Sabina mentioned, I suppose, the focus on education. I want to kind of reaffirm our commitment that is such a priority within our National Breastfeeding Action Plan, along with improving the supports for mothers. And I suppose at the backbone of that is improving our practices within the health services. In 2019, we've updated our infant feeding policies for community services and for hospitals. We now have a national breastfeeding observation and assessment tool, which has been piloted in many areas of the country, and I'm pleased to say that now we have much more, I suppose, national robust tools that can support our public health nurses to support mothers when they go home from hospital. We have 290 breastfeeding support groups, and many of those are run by you and run by you in the room, and we keep our national database updated, and we know that this is our #1 hit on our national My Child site. So it's very, I suppose, encouraging that so many mothers are looking to find out where their local breastfeeding support group, and I suppose I would encourage you all to signpost our mums to mychild.ie, where all of the breastfeeding support groups run by the Leche League, Cuidiú, Friends of Breastfeeding and the HSC staff, all their contact details are up there. I suppose that as part of today, I suppose, a celebration as well, I want to acknowledge our members from ALCI here, the Association of Lactation Consultants in Ireland, who are 30 years in existence. And I know Sue was informing me she has people from 18 different professions around the country. So what it shows is congratulations to them, and it shows that we've so many types of people around Ireland that are supporters of breastfeeding and that have gone on to develop specialist skills. So huge congratulations to our ALCI members on 30 years of existence as well this year. And I suppose our campaign message this year is every breastfeed makes a difference, and it is more positive that that more mothers are continuing to breastfeed. And I want to thank and acknowledge everyone for your efforts in supporting more mums and families to breastfeed in Ireland. Thank you.
I believe we have a lactation consultant here if she wanted to say a few words, and then we'll go on to our last speaker on this group. Seconds. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sabina, for the invitation to say a few words. It'll be a very few words. Just to say a big thank you to all the members of our association. As Laura has mentioned, we cover about 18 different disciplines, from consultants to voluntary members to everybody in between. And it's a great privilege to continue to be president of that organisation. We are there on the professional side to support mothers and families in their choices around breastfeeding, both at local level in their homes as private practice lactation consultants, and also in hospitals, PHN, healthcare settings, and throughout the entire spectrum of where people might meet somebody who needs to have some information around breastfeeding. So support your local IBCLC lactation consultant.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because I think it's so right that it's such a pity when people start breastfeeding in hospital and don't continue on. And it's really them having the knowledge that there will be a spurt, when the baby needs more at 3 weeks, it'll have a spurt, and at 6 weeks, and at 3 months. And at that time, it will just want to feed and feed and feed for the whole day. But a lot of people get worried at that stage and they think, oh, it's hungry, it isn't. But it's nature's way of increasing the supply, so after that it'll settle down again to the next time. But I do think it's such a pity for people to start and not to go on. And if they had all that information, as you say, and the confidence that there was support, they would go on. And now I'm very delighted to welcome Aoife Hearn. She's the baby feeding law group, and we had a lovely experience with those when they showed the Tiger film, which, as I was saying, showed the abuse of information and advertising by formula people. So it was a wonderful turnout for it, and we now have Aoife Hearn here, and I think we have to congratulate her. I think she got the Advocate of the Year for breastfeeding. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Sabina, for inviting me to speak today. It's a real privilege, and for supporting Baby Feeding Law Group event, Tiger's movie. It meant so much to us to have your support. I'm delighted to be here today speaking as a breastfeeding mother, as a dietitian and as a representative of Baby Feeding Law Group. I'm so thankful also that Storm Lorenzo didn't interfere with this lovely event to support National Breastfeeding Week. And I suppose, you know, when we think of climate and we think of climate change, it really is top of the agenda right now. And we really all have to understand that we can't talk about climate change without talking about breastfeeding, that it is an integral part of that. And Baby Feeding Law Group Ireland are delighted to be now part of Coalition 2030, looking at sustainable development. Sabina mentioned earlier about exclusive breastfeeding till 6 months, and I think it actually reminded me to even mention that here today, because that time period is really under threat. And a lot of stuff that's going on within industry really wants women now to start introducing solids sooner. And so I'm here to tell you that the vast body of evidence supports not introducing solids until 6 months. So no matter what anyone else tells you, that's what the evidence says. I want to share a story with you all today. About this time 4 years ago, I sat in a room, a meeting with 14 other dietitians. I was nervous about a topic I'd proposed for the meeting, and I had proposed the topic of approaching our professional body to refuse sponsorship from breast milk substitute manufacturers. At that meeting, it turned out to be the worst meeting of my life. I was deflated, heartbroken, disappointed at the response and lack of support I got at that meeting, where only one other dietitian vocally supported me in that room. It felt like a very hostile environment. I cried the whole way home to Waterford in my car. And, you know, I really felt so hopeless that day, that there was never going to be change. And the reason I'm telling the story today is because change has started. In our small group now, we've decided to refuse any sponsorship from any industry. And actually at the INDI's AGM tomorrow, on the agenda is a discussion around industry sponsorship. So I wanted to tell you that story today because these hard, honest conversations that are really, really difficult to have and put you in a really vulnerable place are really important to have. If we want to make change and if we want to become a society where breastfeeding is normal, we all need to be brave to have those honest conversations with our colleagues, with our friends, with our family, with health professionals, and to help shine light into some of those dark corners. So thank you very much.